Combustion.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Been running the game with my team making plays. Talking 80, my G's, 100 jewels in this place. Surrounded by dogs, keep the quarterback safe. I'm the one with the plans, they gon' do what I say. The game is not over, we don't celebrate. In the end zone, we don't got no time in the wait. H-time run down, we don't premeditate. We just go and get to it, we got them on skates. If the game going to overtime, kicking the overdrive, we gon' be first at the finish line. Play looking full, but I finish mine. Can I get second? We gon' line up like it's dinner time. We put in work till we get this serene. Super Bowl season, we running the scene. H-time the home of the realest that breathe. Keep your face down when you talk to the king.
Yo, what up, y'all? This is your boy AD, and I got my co-host Clayton in the building, and this is another episode of the H-Town Rundown. And yeah, we back, baby. It's another off-season episode, another off-season talk. NBA Finals just got done. Thank you, New York Knicks, for putting away the San Antonio Spurs in a gentleman's sweep. Really should have been a 4-0 sweep. Brought out the brooms for them, but the New York Knicks been 53 years for them. They had a hell of a run, especially throughout the playoffs. I think at one point they won like 13 straight games in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And you know they battled through. I think they had the largest comeback in NBA Finals history.
Mm-hmm. And
they were down double digit. Say it again.
Not just finals, playoff history.
Yeah, down 29, came back, won a game. Were down double digits in every game in the series and managed to come back. Yeah, a shout out Jalen Brunson, dog. You know, so all of that. 45, man. To close it out. So, and he was clutch down the stretch, man. He brought him all the way back. So that was a hell of a series, hell of a game. Shout out to New York Knicks. I know New York fans are excited. Hopefully the Texan fans will get that in a few months, maybe about 6-7 months from now. We should be celebrating like this again. You know, but because of the NBA Finals being done, we're kind of in this awkward period where baseball is, you know, middle of their season, and you know, Astros are, you know, we don't know. Texans are done with mandatory minicamp this past week. They're off until training camp in July. So it's really a dead period of Houston sports right now, unfortunately. Thank you, Astros. So it's really not much to really talk about, but we're here to give some in-depth conversations about the Texans' depth. And what, you know, we could possibly see from the Houston Texans going forward as we approach training camp, but just some things to talk about and think about, because honestly we've talked about it, you know, a lot about the Texans starting lineup and how anybody you bring in is not overlapping or touching anybody, you know, that's starting, but there's a lot of depth concerns. A lot of the conversations this offseason has been about the depth, who's going to replace who if somebody gets hurt, all of these things. And if you look at it, there's a lot of young players in this Texans depth, especially on the defensive side of the football.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to talk about it. But I want to get your thoughts on this rainy Sunday. Because I'm nervous somebody probably gonna go out the way it's been storming. But I want to hear your thoughts about the offseason, what your expectations is going forward for the Texans as we go into training camp, and we'll go into the depth aspect after that.
Sure. Honestly, man, I think right now, you know, all the quotes you see, all the well wishes, you know, all these things are fine. All the quotables you see on X, right, about CJ Stroud looks good in the offense. He's taking ownership, and this guy lost weight, or this guy's doing this. I think at this point, we need to see results. Like going into training camp, this is where what Nick Caserio said is going to apply, which is all we can do is supply the players. They figure out the depth chart. right? So I'm at the stage now where it's like whether you're young or whether you're a veteran, like you're in the Super Bowl window right now, right? Like no exaggeration, this is a Super Bowl or bust kind of season, or at least you're going into that phase of your team life cycle where it's time, you know. So I'm looking forward to the cream rising to the to the top, the cream rising, trying to see who is going to solidify themselves as a contributor on the team. Most of the starting spots are taken care of, right? Offensive line, I mean, that's still being sorted out, namely center position. I think, now I did see right tackle kind of speculation on Braden Smith, Trent Brown. If you listen to the, Dr. Barrett of the world, he's talking about Trent, so ultimately, I think to kind of sidebar for a second, I think if you spend the money to bring in a Braden Smith and he can't beat out Trent Brown, I think that's kind of problematic off rip. But that's just me. Um, but yeah, man. So going in the training camp, I'm fully expecting 100% participation. I'm expecting to see Tank Dell locked and loaded, ready to go. Him fully participating for the first time in like what 2 years. So there's that, and yeah, once we start getting guys like that back in the fold, again, I'm looking for the depth chart to settle itself out. It should only be a couple of spots that we're eyeballing. So there's that.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the positions or we're talking about or going to talk about is the tight end position. Um, there's been a lot of chatter about the tight end position and the depth specifically. I know that people were up in arms about Marlon Klein being injured, quote unquote injured, and the way they talk about is that he's going to be out for the season, and what a waste of a pick, and all that. Like it's just the sentiment. People are not verbatim saying he's out for the season, but the
Sure.
sentiment
Right.
is that, oh wow, he's already injured and he can't be healthy and this and that. Mind you, you have those same people hyping up Brevin Jordan, who hasn't played in 3 years, two and a half years. So like, be cognizant of what you say and how you talk about players. Just because you didn't like the pick because they didn't get Anthony Hill
Mm-hmm.
and they got Marlon Klein, don't crap on them because crap on him but celebrate Brevin Jordan. Like it doesn't make zero sense. And Brevin Jordan is another player who's, getting talked about as somebody that can potentially come back and provide depth to the room at tight end. Then you have with Klein and Brevin Jordan, you have Foster Moreau, who came in and as a veteran, um, I look at it like this. He's a guy that can potentially be value a value guy who can provide reps and do things as a productive tight end. He's been a productive tight end his whole career. Outside of his, cancer situation, let's see what Foster Moreau can do. And, you know, I you think about it, is really a lot of depth that the Texans have at tight end because I talked about
Mm-hmm.
those three guys, and then you still got Case Stover, who's going to probably be like a fullback slash
I'm about
tight.
to say he gonna be fullback.
Yeah.
Really.
So I mean, at the end of the day, I look at it like this: the Houston Texans had they got depleted at the tight end position,
Mm-hmm.
and now that you look at it, if Brevin Jordan can stay healthy, if Klein can, prove to be a asset and be productive, then that's two tight ends on along with Foster Moreau and Dalton Schultz. Now you have four tight ends. You have four tight ends. So even if Schultz gets hurt, or even if Moreau gets hurt, you have Brevin Jordan come in, or even if Brevin Jordan gets hurt, you have Marlon Klein coming in. So you have like that is something that I think we all should be wishing for and hoping for is the depth of the tight end position.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this will allow the Texans to play more two tight ends, says more 12 personnel. It
Mm-hmm.
may even allow them to play 13 personnel. Um, where you have three tight end sets,
Mm-hmm.
so I look at it like this. Let's get away from the Blake Fishers as your pseudo tight end. Let's get away from that extra offensive lineman and let's use these two tight ends. Yeah.
Boy, I
Eligible
can
receiver.
Boy.
Let's get away from the eligible receiver.
Hey.
and let's talk about it. How does that impact the offense? Because I think Nick Caley wants to run more two tight end sets, more three tight end sets, and run the ball more effectively. But that's right up his alley. I want to hear your thoughts about the Texans using those Foster Moreau's, Marlon Klein's, Brevin Jordan's, K Stovers in those two and three tight end
Mhm.
sets along with Dalton Schultz.
Sure. So no, I like how you said that. No, Nick Haley, he comes from the Ram system, right? Like they run those Ram sets. They run those side end sets. They play with their big body guys. The thing is, Kaylee is trying to create a more sustainable brand of offensive football. You could not do that last year because of the fact that you couldn't run the football. O line was a mess, and you did not have the multiple tight ends that you wanted. Now that you have everybody assumedly at 100%, like you said, with Stover, with Moreau, with Brevin, with Dalton, you got guys who are multi-talented guys who can do different things, but you have multiple big body tight ends who can do stuff at the line of scrimmage or in the passing game or whatever the case may be. It's just much more sustainable than depending on just the receivers and just the running backs. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're like the thing is with this offense, this spread the ball offense, you gotta have multiple weapons to spread the ball to. And when you don't, just a lot of it just doesn't work. So, with that said, I mean, we haven't really seen a lot, even with Haley being only a first year, well, going to be a second year play caller, we really haven't seen a lot of what his playbook probably looks like because of the absence of all this personnel. So
Mm-hmm.
now it's like, we're gonna see some stuff. And it's like, oh wow, man, I didn't know Kaylee had that. Well, yeah, I mean, you don't have the personnel, you can't run it. So, Collins can't do Dalton Schultz routes. Heck, there's a reason why against New England, as soon as Dalton Schultz went out, it felt like the whole game plan was just, and Dalton
He
said it.
looked
He
at
said,
crap.
man,
Yeah.
yeah, like Dalton said it. Like there was a plan for me, and I couldn't show up. So, again, the biggest bugaboo is going to be health. If that is taken care of, the Texans will have an effective offense, a sustainable offense, an offense that they'll not just beat you in time of possession, but they'll actually be able to better convert those opportunities and hopefully turn more of those, threes and sevens. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and I said it on X, man. It's not breaking news, but the tight end position is one of the most underrated cheat code positions in all of football. Um, all the dynasties, all the pseudo dynasties we've seen in recent years, recent decades, the Rob Gronkowski's of the world, the Travis Kelsey's, like the Brock Bowers, all those guys like that, the George Kittles of the world. Like, if you have an impact tight end or multiple, if you have a system that weaponizes tight ends in a way that's effective, you will be successful. Like you
Mm-hmm.
will. Can you imagine this for I know sidebar for a second? Can you imagine if Aaron Hernandez had not gone off the deep end and did what he did? Can you imagine the kind of offensive numbers the Patriots would have still been putting up with both of those dudes on the field?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like that's how lethal the tight end can be if you have the right personnel and the right coach to use them. So is Kaylee the right OC? Remains to be seen. But you got to give the man the personnel that he wants before we kind of make these final determinations. So I'm excited. I'm happy for Brevin because he hasn't played in 2 years, and I just want to see him healthy, right? Like I just want to see him healthy. Maybe get himself a deal with another team. This is an audition year. It's over. I really don't know what you're going to do with him. I have no idea. The fact that he's flexible enough to play fullback is like, all right, well, at least you'll do different things. So it's fine. Dalton's locked
Yeah.
in, could just resign him. And Moreau, I feel like Moreau, he's already leapfrogged the tight end too, based off of what we understand. So
Yeah.
don't be shocked. Yeah, don't be shocked that we see some career numbers out of Foster just because they trust him that much, just to be that vet to just know where he is, like him and Dalton. So
Yeah. I think you got to think about it when they signed him, and as a veteran, I think he was definitely a better option than the ones of the past of like a
mhm.
Harrison Bryant or
Oh yeah,
so on and so forth. He's a proven veteran. He's been a starter in the league for multiple years. You're not going to sit up here and think you're going to get gaudy numbers from him. I think
no,
Dalton Schultz had 800 yards receiving last year or something
like
like that.
700, 777,
7,
I think, something that sort.
yeah, some 7, 8 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just that along with Moreau, like just Texan fans, don't expect your tight end 2 or 3 to have 500, 600 yards. Like it doesn't. You're not going to have
No.
2,000 yard tight ends like you did in New England with with Gronk and Aaron Hernandez. That's not gonna happen. But say Dalton gets 700 yards again, and Moreau or whoever tight end two, whether it be Moreau, Klein, or whatever, gets another 300 yards. That's a very
It's good.
successful. If you get 1,000 yards out of your tight end room, you're winning.
Yeah.
And I could see a
It's good.
combination with Dalton, with all four tight ends. If they all play, meaningful snaps, you're going to get 1,000 yards out of your tight end room. And
Mm,
because of that, that's going to help tremendously. And then go back to your point about turning threes into sevens. Now you can implement the 12 personnel and 13 personnel in the red zone
mm,
and be able to run the ball and implement play action and be able to have guys like Schultz, Moreau, Klein, Brevin Jordan get in the end zone,
mm,
and have those mismatches on those DBs in the secondary and those bigger bodies. I think if you look at them all, Klein is what, 6'5", 6'6".
6'6".
Dalton Schultz is 6'6". Foster Moreau is 6'5", 6'4", 6'5". And then you got Brevin Jordan, who's on the small end at 6'3". But you have these big body tight ends who can play. And if they're going to garner those mismatches with the
Mm,
linebackers, with the freaking nickel corners and safeties and stuff. So those opportunities to turn threes into sevens are going to grow exponentially.
mm,
So definitely we gotta look into that. And keep a watchful eye on the tight end room. I think people kind
mm,
of disregard it, and a lot of people have turned to like the wide receiver 4, 5, 6, and all that stuff like that.
mm,
Look at the tight end room and everything like that, and see how that's going to grow and help CJ Stroud specifically.
mm.
And speaking of
Yeah,
going with CJ Stroud, let's talk about the offensive line
yeah.
and their depth. Because at the end of the offensive line talk, we'll give our predictions on the who how many offensive linemen you think they're going to carry, the Texans are going to carry, and
Mm,
then who makes the cut. But right now, I want to get your thoughts on the impact of a Wyatt Teller, of a Braden Smith, and a
mm.
Keelan Rutledge.
Sure. So I'm gonna go in reverse order. So the Keelan Rutledge, I mean, I don't, you don't want to sound cliche, but it's just the fact that Keelan Rutledge is just a dog, man. He just comes in just grimy, corn fed. Like I just want to play football, right? Like I just want to drive somebody by their chest plate and just finish the play, right? Like that's what I like about Keelan. He's flexible, versatile. He's willing to play throughout the interior. He's look again, not to overreact. Him and Jake have been exchanging reps, throughout minicamp and OTAs for whatever that's worth. So he's been getting some live reps at the position, so that's good for him. So I just like the culture kind of setter or culture multiplier that Rutledge is, along with this flexibility, along with the fact that he's a very specific scheme fit guy to like be physical, run the football, like that kind of thing. I like him for that reason. As far as Wyatt Teller and Braden Smith, I don't know if you saw, but Wyatt Teller, for example, he mentioned how maybe he got complacent in Cleveland. That basically, and he was being very diplomatic, right? He was not burning bridges.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't got no connection to Cleveland. This basically, he was saying like it was a bad situation. The human element kicked in. Why am I trying this hard for like a bad situation? Like I get it. We're not saying that he shouldn't be professional, but I mean, you and I both we worked your jobs before. That you see the infrastructure, you see that's a dead end. That definitely can siphon off some of your motivation. That can kind of affect you if you're not careful because you're like, all this effort and for what? So Wyatt knew that, but he's still a multi-time All-Pro. Like he's still a quality player. And the moment he got with Houston, he shot the praises, saying like their training program is top notch,
Mm-hmm.
expectations are top notch. You see endless videos of him and his wife, like it's been nonstop. So he said like he had to get back to strength. He's reinvigorated, he's remotivated, so that helps. It's funny how injuries tend to disappear when you leave bad teams. Um, shout out the New Orleans Pelicans. But nah, man. So Teller, along with being reinvigorated, again, he brings a veteran presence. He brings smarts, IQ, intelligence. Like he's another coach on the field, along with Braden Smith, who
Mm-hmm.
the coach to their credit. I mean, look, they have developed elite O lines over the years. So he's able to bring what he knows from there and just share with these guys. So not only do you got Kaylee and Shaplinsky and Popovich in that
Mm-hmm.
here, but you got them holding each other accountable, in that O line room on the field, right? That kind of thing. So I just like the veteran. I like the veteran presence that can still produce specifically, right? Like it's not veterans that on their last legs really can't play. It's guys who are key veterans who can still play, who can show you what to do as the young pup if you're not getting it right. But
Mm-hmm.
then the minute, if like best case scenario, these are guys who, by their contract design, they should be out of the door in 1 to 2 seasons anyway. So they'll serve their purpose. It's just on the rest of the infrastructure to say how long it's going to take. But all things considered, I just like the makeup. I do. It's really for me. It's your best offensive line potential since the mythical 22 to 2014 run. Like
2011 to really
yeah,
2010 to 2014, but I'm not going to put that on them.
yeah.
They've had decent offensive lines, but I'm not going to put that on them. I do like the combination of Wyatt Teller, Ed Ingram, Braden Smith, and Ariante Ursery, that they're able to kind of grow and mesh together. I think there's a good mixture and blend of, you got your extremely young with Ariante Ursery and Keelan Rutledge.
Mm,
You have your extreme veterans with Braden Smith and Wyatt Teller, and then you got the Ed Ingrams of the world who's in that
hmm.
middle ground, who's older but not, towards the end of his career.
Yeah.
Um, and so you have that nice little blend of those offensive linemen, and I think the growth potential is really, really great because you're locked in
Hmm.
right now. If and right, like you said earlier, Wyatt Teller looks revigorated. He
Hmm.
looks like a brand new guy. He lost weight. He talked about how he lost what 20 pounds or something, but gained, 15 of it
Hmm.
back in muscle. And he
Hmm.
looks like, a guy who's here for the long haul. He talked about how the Texans, workout and strength and conditioning program means that they have to be in shape.
Yep.
They can't be out of shape. They can't be tired. There is no tired on the field, and I love that.
Hmm.
That's a requirement for the Texans. That you're not going to have those sloppy offensive linemen, and maybe that was a part of the whole Kenyon Green experience. That he just couldn't figure it out. He couldn't get his weight under control. He couldn't get, either he was too heavy and sloppy, or he lost too much weight and was still out of shape and couldn't get the stamina to play the game. So I mean, it's a lot. I mean, it
Hmm.
explains more of the failures of a Kenyon Green, right?
Hmm.
Um,
And then
so
creative.
yeah, look, if anybody ever followed the H-Town Rundown, I've been one of the biggest Kenyon Green supporters of
Hmm.
them all. And I had to take that L when Kenyon Green just didn't work out. Like I had faith in him and I took the L with him. Again, I still have hope that one day he probably can figure it out. Or if not, he achieved his dream and became an NFL player.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's sad
good, man.
2026 we're still having the King, we still talking about Kenyon Green. But shout out, chill out, Brandon, Brando,
Hey,
Daniel Berry, everybody in the chat. But
where's Grandpa? Grandpa.
yeah.
Where's Grandpa?
Graph
Grandpa.
somewhere, but grapha, but definitely, I'm looking at the combination of the offensive line, and I think that not only will this combination, because I mean, you can switch out Braden Smith for Trent Brown
Hmm.
if something if Braden Smith doesn't work out, and Nick Casario take the hit for that, but you have a solid backup plan in Trent Brown at right
Yeah.
tackle to come in and kind of help you solidify everything as well. But I think that those combinations will not only help CJ Stroud, in protection wise and understanding how to figure out the game. And I think the communication aspect with CJ Stroud
Hmm.
will be 10 times better with this offensive line because you have a lot more veterans there. And you have not so much veterans, but you have players that understand how to win.
Hmm.
Braden Smith has been a part of winning offensive lines. And you go to Wyatt Teller. he's been not so much saying winning teams, but Wyatt Teller has been a part of what some people consider the best offensive line in the league multiple years in a row.
Sure.
And then you have these these other guys to learn from, like Trent Brown, who's I think, if I'm not mistaken, Trent Brown has won a Super Bowl. Let me look that up real quick. I thought Trent Brown won a Super Bowl. Did he win a Super Bowl with the Patriots?
Oh yeah, he did. He won Super Bowl.
Yeah, so you have a Super Bowl champion in Trent Brown. Yeah, Super Bowl champion, and he was a Pro Bowler. So you got Pro Bowl and Super Bowl champion. And so, I could see, thank you, Brandon. I could see that experience and communication can help CJ Stroud see the game a little bit better.
Well, what? I'm sorry. My bad.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to contribute to your point. Like, if you look at it, Trent Brown is like last season. He's like your one accomplished O lineman who really by design wasn't supposed to start, but then he took over anyway. Outside of that, who did you have? Blake Fisher, Juice Scruggs, Ariante Ursery, Cam Robinson, right? That whole thing. Like, you had unproven on top of unproven.
Mm-hmm.
Then you went from just Trent Brown, like the singular accomplished Super Bowl, Pro Bowler. You got him, Braden, Wyatt, at least three dudes who have accomplished multiple things at the NFL level.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now basically it's almost like you have this like leadership subcommittee almost where now if something's happening, they can branch off and talk through some things, kick around some ideas and bring it to these young guys. Like you have this, like we talked about the Knicks to open up the show. You looked at their roster composition.
Mm-hmm.
Not a single young dude in their starting lineup. Not a single one. You don't believe me? Look it up. Of course, they're young and like in the relative sense, but meaning like young drafted dudes. Nope. You had Josh Hart after the game talk about forget them picks, right? Jalen Brunson was he was a free agency acquisition. Josh Hart, trade acquisition. OG Anunoby, trade acquisition. Cat, trade acquisition. The list goes on. Like, what do I mean when I say that? How's it connected to Texans? This is the most grown man roster that they have fielded since CJ has arrived here, right? Mm-hmm. They have an abundance of veteran accomplished presences that now can really help to compensate, so that those youthful ignorance moments do not shine through as much. It was cute when it was, you were young and didn't know any better and you were dropping 45 on the Cleveland Browns in their defense, and flaming out against the Ravens. It's not cute anymore when you're adding age and experience and expectations. Now you have vets who can balance that out. And like you said, they may not be coming from like championship organizations outside of Trent Brown, but they can teach you how to win a rep. They can teach you how to win 2 reps. They can teach you how to win a training camp. They can teach you how to do those things. So, and really, that's what this youthful core needs. They need those winning elements in the margins. Like, again, another thing you talked about veteran leadership. I did a piece on like penalties and how the Texans have been one of the most penalized teams for the last 3 seasons. From 2023 to 2024, they were a top 5 most penalized team in the NFL. They got a little bit better this past season, and they were like, what, 8th or something like that? Mm-hmm. So they always are the upper tier of most penalized teams. And you're talking about, and I even listed out what specific penalties they got the most. Offensive holding was the number 1 for the offensive side of the ball. I forget what the other one was. I think OPI, but still, holding. That means you can't block. That means situationally you don't know what you're doing. That means you're compensating because you're out of position, you don't know the play, or you're just getting beat. Mm-hmm. I think with the veteran leadership now, you're going to cut down on those things also. And that opens up a whole new layer of just being able to win these reps and win drives, win possessions when you're not getting shooed off the field because you got a false start penalty in a moment where all you had to do was not jump. Right, like little stuff like that. So I look forward to those in the margins, winning rep moments, taking, bearing fruit in training camp and beyond.
Yeah. Look, like I said, it's a lot to, you know, envision. It's a lot to kind of expect, have high expectations. Because of, you always want to have that positive feeling that the Texans are doing what they can to put the right pieces in place, right? And then you go to the Keelan Rutledge of it all, and them drafting him and kind of prefacing it by having these pieces already in place.
Mm-hmm.
So that him coming in, it's not like he has to come in and kind of be the instant leader of the offensive line room. I go back to the Colts when they drafted Quentin Nelson. Quentin Nelson had to come in and be the
Mm-hmm.
instant guy. Because if I'm not mistaken, maybe I'm wrong. I may be wrong. Um, but if I'm not mistaken, Quentin Nelson was drafted and Saturday had already retired, or he was on the verge of retiring, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't
Um,
know. Quentin Nelson was kind of like that first of the new era, you could say, of Colts offensive linemen.
yeah. So I think, let me see. Quentin Nelson was drafted in what year? He's 30. He's about 8 years. When was he drafted? He was
That's
drafted
crazy.
in 2018. And when did Jeff Saturday retire?
That's crazy. 8 years already.
Yeah.
I remember they got him too, boy.
Yeah. Quentin Nelson was drafted in 2018.
Mm.
Jeff Saturday had to retire way before then because yeah, he retired in 2012. Yeah. It's like it had to be.
Right, but still, though, to your point, though, Quentin Nelson picked up the baton, even with the 5, 6 year gap. Like he still was of that new era of Colts offensive lineman. Like
But
he kept the
he
standard.
came in and had to be instantly the guy and the leader of that room. Whereas Keelan Rutledge in this era, he comes in, he doesn't have to be the leader of
Nope.
that room. Same thing they did it with Ariante Ursary. He came in, he didn't have to be a leader of the room. You still had Titus Howard here.
Yeah.
They brought in other older veterans like whatever whatever his name was. What's his name?
Yeah.
75. Um,
Not Robinson, huh?
Thomas.
No.
Yeah, they
Oh,
brought in
Tomlin. Oh,
Cam
boy.
Robinson,
Lakin Tomlinson, boys.
Lakin Tomlinson, and all those
Lakin
guys you brought
Tomlinson, boy.
in, right? But now you have Religion. He doesn't have to be a leader. Ariante Ursary still doesn't have to be a leader in the room. You have
Mm-hmm.
Wyatt Teller, you have Ed Ingram, you have Braden Smith, you have, you know, freaking Trent Brown. You have those guys that can come in and um, kind of lead the charge and take a hold of the reins and let Keelan Rutledge just develop and learn. Go ahead.
Well, and I'm just gonna say, like to your point, yeah. I mean that, yeah, and that happens when you bring in, and it's no disrespect to Lakin Tomlinson to Juice now, but this works when you have the right veterans to bring in, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you have the right vets that the young guys can learn from. As you said, guys who know how to win a rep or two, who won championships, who were all pros, who were Pro Bowlers. It's the same thing as trying to develop a quarterback, right? Like it's one thing to bring a quarterback in and you have him sit behind, I don't know, Blake Bortles, right? Like you could say, yeah, he can sit behind Blake. He doesn't have to be the guy, or he could sit behind Tom Brady and learn for 3 to 5 years, right? Like it makes a world of difference who you sit behind before you take on that role. And the fact that Ariante Ursary came in and he had to make the best of a problematic situation because he came in and besides Trent Brown, yes, he had vets and like, Titus Howard or whatnot, but we're
Mm-hmm.
not talking like super accomplished and accolade riddled vets. We're talking
Mm-hmm.
about guys who just have been in the league, which is not for nothing, but just still. Versus now, where you have guys who have been there, who have done it, who have the rings for it, who have the All Pros, like guys who you could really say, "Hey, how do I do this at the highest level? How do I
Mm-hmm.
do this at a Pro Bowl level?" That's what the Texans have been missing. They've had all that on the defense side of the ball. That's why, like guys like Kamara Ramsey and Jalen Smith and Jalen Reed, they are set up to be so successful because
Mm-hmm.
they're able to learn from the best of the best at their respective positions, like in 4 or 5 different places, from linebacker to cornerback to safety to defensive end. Like they have that self-sustaining infrastructure. The offense is just now trying to get there. So hopefully, again, they can really advance and grow. And these young guys can really see how it's done, and they can take up that mantle and contribute themselves.
Yeah. And it's a perfect segue to go right into the next topic you talk about, the Kamari Ramseys and the Jalen Smiths of the world that, the Texans brought in another veteran on the defensive side of the ball to kind of help stabilize. I say stabilize, Lord Jesus, stabilize. I was about to make up something
Tendenism.
like how I made the
Tendenism.
word up. But to stabilize the back end of the defensive side of the ball and Reed Blankenship. I know that's one of Jules' favorite players.
Read.
But I think that we talked about earlier the tight end position being decimated last year. Another group
Mhm.
that has consistently shout out Frank. Yeah, offense will get there faster with more veterans. I agree. Um and good veterans. Let's say that good veterans.
Mhm. Not
But
just that, bro. That irks me so much, bro. Just being a veteran, just be a vet, like that means something. Like I respect your years, but like again, if you have not been to the mountaintop, if you are not the best of the best at your position, it's just not the same, bro. It's not. It's no disrespect, but come on now. That's no. Anyway, continue. Yeah.
yeah, so I go back again and I talking about the defensive side of the ball. And Reed Blank, and you talk about the most decimated position groups on the team, and tight end was one of them. And then you look at the other one is the safety room. The
Mm-hmm.
safety room, I mean, we were injury after injury after injury, and not just this past year, really the whole D'Amico era. That
Mm-hmm.
safety position group has been decimated. I mean, Jalen Petrie was injured 2 years out of last year was his first healthy year, full healthy year. Jalen Petrie's been injured. Then you had CJ Gardner Johnson, and then he had his issues and he had to go. And the Jimmy Ward of it all, never being healthy and being able to hold the position down. Then you have the MJ Stewarts and the Miles Bryans. And what's the other guy's name? That everybody was glad he went to the Jaguars. What's his name?
Oh my goodness. Talking. Oh my goodness. Is it Eric Murray?
Eric
Him?
Murray, the Eric Murrays
Yeah.
of the world. Like all those guys have been injured or in and out of the lineup at some point where we're just deploying. Yeah, there you go, Brandon. Thank you. We're just deploying like who knows who of safety help. I mean, even that Chargers game at the end of the season last year, we had a freaking training camp practice squad guy starting the game. You
Mm.
know, and hoping he makes plays and all that at the safety position. So Reed Blankenship should provide stability and allow the guys like a Jalen Reed, whatever.
Bro, I'm sorry. I shouldn't think this way. Listen. You said Reed Blankenship will bring stability. There's a reason why I started chuckling for some reason when you said Reed Blankenship and who he is, and he's bringing stability. But continue. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
But like you got to think about it. He gives the
Yeah.
guys like I mean, we talk about injuries. Jalen Reed injured
Yeah.
majority of last year. And even what's the other safety we drafted?
I'm talking about Smith because Smith is a corner.
Yeah, I'm not talking about Smith, but it was another safety we drafted.
Not Reed. Oh, yeah. The
Uh,
name scares me.
yeah, I'm blanking, but it'll come to me. But it gives the Jalen Reeds and then the Kamari Ramseys of the world opportunities to kind of learn and grow and not be forced into positions where they have to, make plays. You
Sure.
know,
I
it's
mean, again, shoot, my fault. I keep on cutting in front of you. Um, okay. No, man. I was gonna say to the Reed Blankenship point when his name first got dropped early in the off season, like I was excited because like man, I wasn't looking for Reed Blankenship. I didn't think they would go that far. But I mean, again, we have another Super Bowl champion, a smart safety who, while he may not be just this uber athlete, he knows where he's supposed to be. He's smart, has IQ. He brings situational awareness. I think he's a great balancer to Kalen Bullock, who can be a bit of a gambler at times. Who, yeah, let's be real. Like he cost you 6 points against the Patriots in AFC divisional. Like when he went, for the ball and he flew over the receiver as opposed to
Mhm.
just securing the tackle. That's six. That's on you, right? And he does that frequently. So hopefully Reed and him can have a great relationship and they can just talk through some things. He can learn from Reed. Um, but it's not just the injuries. Like we had the most like Three Stooges cartoonish, like bro, some cartoonish stuff would happen to our safety room. Like again, not to get into people's personal stuff too much, but I mean, dang, Jimmy Ward, either he was hurt or he was incarcerated. Like it was something like that where like you couldn't like you literally could not depend on him. And you brought him over, like he was one of D'Amico's first guys he brought over from San Fran to be a culture setter. That part wasn't a bad move. It's just the fact that it couldn't have worked out any worse for
Mhm.
Jimmy. Like it really couldn't have. CJ Gardner Johnson, he was here for 3 games.
Yeah.
Before that, we thought he tore his ACL.
Oh
Praise God,
man,
he
that was
did.
a crazy story. That shout out Aaron Wilson. Reporting.
Oh, bro, I forgot about that. That did happen. That
Yeah,
did. But yeah, man, we thought he tore his ACL. Turns out he didn't. Turns out
out
he was
for the
just fine.
season. Yeah,
You
came back
know, he
3 weeks later.
came back and lost his job in 3 weeks. so
Yeah.
So we had either injuries or just some cartoony levels of stuff happening. Um, let's say reading Kamari, we talking about the backups, not Blankenship Lester. Right. So
Mhm.
it's just that we have a healthier secondary. We have a more stable secondary. Oh, we just have grown men back there. So you got guys like Kamara, you got guys like Reed and Smith, who again have the veteran leadership, more than qualified leadership, guys who are all ball, who are gonna stay available.
Mhm.
We're not gonna disappear. We're not gonna probably end up somewhere that they shouldn't, on some substances that they shouldn't. Like they're gonna be here. And those are the kind of guys that D'Amico wants, guys who are football, guys who can be trusted, who are here. And I think a defense that was already elite, like you add to the most physical defense in the NFL, arguably. Now you give them any ounces more IQ. That's just unfair. That's just and they smart too.
Mm. Yeah. Look, I mean, you got to think about it because we'll touch more on the linebackers and the running backs and all that on the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to continue the safety talk because I feel like that is a critical piece to what the Texans want to do because you don't want to deplete your safety group where you're moving Jalen Petrie to the back end and
Oh
taking him
no,
in
no,
his
no, no.
natural position. And the fact that the Texans have kind of done their part to get the depth, and the depth is young. So
Mm-hmm.
your depth in that safety room is really young. You still got MJ Stewart there. Um, but you were able to get rid of Miles Bryant. Um, shout out to the Cleveland Browns.
Mm-hmm.
But you're able to have a veteran there, have Reed Blankenship, but you still have freaking Kalen Bullock, you still have Jalen Reed, you still have Kamari Ramsey, all deployed for that safety room, so that you have talent there and young talent there to kind of help with whatever they want to do.
Bro, and I forgot who was it? Who was it? They got held at gunpoint with that Reed or that Smith. One of them two, but like
Yeah.
even then, like either hurt or literally his life was at risk. Like
Hmm.
this is the kind of stuff that we're talking about as to why dudes are unavailable.
Hmm.
I just really hope that I don't like this Dallas Cowboy like arc. We've been on in that regard. We
Let's move. Let's get past this part, and I think that you know I don't. Injuries are a part of the game. And I don't know where you want to take your lumps at. Do you want to take your lumps there or do you want to take your lumps somewhere else? I'm gonna be real with you. If the safety room has to be the sacrifice, I think we're more prepared for the safety room being a sacrifice for the Texans year after year this year than we were in the past. Because I'm gonna tell you this, I'd rather the safety room be the sacrifice than the offensive line,
yeah.
wide receivers as it has been or running
Yeah.
backs. I'd rather that be because I think D'Amico is well equipped enough to kind of circumvent or kind of make ways to correct those errors of those situations, right?
Sure. Yeah, because they're the back end. Like the
Yeah.
strength of this defense is they want to send that front seven at you. So
Hmm.
that's the whole thing. And the back end shouldn't have to guard that much anyway. So,
Hmm.
you know, that's really what that is.
And I'll leave it there, and we'll put a cap on it there.
mm,
But I do want to go back to the offensive line because what we didn't do was give
mm.
our predictions for the 9 or 10 offensive linemen. Do you think the Texans are going to carry 9 offensive linemen or 10 like they did last year?
Dang, carry that many? Dang, that just sounds like a lot. Shoot, because I'm thinking, man, because Juice is gone, Titus is gone. Not that that matters, but I'm just thinking through. Um, yeah. Oh, 9 or 10. I don't know because I'm thinking about tight end, running back. I'm thinking about other positions like so. You gotta take from somewhere. Um, I'll say maybe. Oh, I don't want to say 8 because that just feels like for what you need, that feels kind of low. But because of other needs on the team, I would say 8 is like a safe kind of number. You're starting 5, and then you got Trent or Braden.
Mhm.
Uh, who forbid is it Fabechi?
Yeah, for Mitch.
Yeah. So what is you talking about? Trent, Fabechi, and then either Jake or Kalen, depending on who starts there. So that gives you 2 interior O linemen and then 1 tackle. You know what? No, make it 9. Make it 9. Make it 9. We'll go 9 there because I need 2 tackles. And who would be? Oh yeah, Blake Fisher. So yeah. So in my scenario, Blake would have to still be there. So that will give you Blake, Fabechi, Keelan, or Jake, and then Braden or Trent. So that 4 right there. And I just think you just have too many other positions that need that much depth to where they're probably going to pluck one from the O line room. So
Yeah, I think I look at it like this because you can always survive and cut a corner and bring an extra player by just having two quarterbacks on your roster instead of three.
right, yeah.
So I mean Davis Mills and CJ Stroud and then have um Grant Mertz on as your practice squad quarterback, right?
Yep.
And be your emergency quarterback. So you can save room that way. I say 10.
Mm,
I say 10. I say 10 because you can get up to 25, 26 on offense, right?
mm,
So I mean you have 10 offensive linemen, let's say 3 or 4 tight ends, and you have, with running back, fullback, let's say you carry 5.
mm.
So that's 9, that's 19. And then wide receiver, let's say you carry
That's
5.
another one.
That's 5 wide receivers, and then you have 2 quarterbacks. That's your 26 on offense, right?
Mm,
Um, or if you want to cut down on tight ends and instead of 4 tight ends, you have 3. So and then that way you have an extra wide receiver and you do 6.
sure.
Or you cut it. But I think for sure you're gonna have 4 tackles. You're
Mm,
gonna have, the starters, Arian Tertiary, Blake Fisher. Well, not
mm,
let me say the starters, Arian Tertiary, and then Braden Smith / Trent Brown. And
mm,
then you're going to have Blake Fisher and Braden Smith / Trent Brown as the backups of those tackles. Those are your 4. Then you're going to have your starting 3 interior offensive linemen, which will be Ed Ingram, Wyatt Teller, and I'm gonna say Keelan Rillage. I'm not gonna say Andor. I'm gonna say Keelan Rillage as your
mm.
3 interior. That's 7. Then you still have, I think Jared Patterson is gone. I think they move on from him. And then, that's 7. So that means that you still have a backup center, which will either
Mhm.
be Jake Andrews,
Okay.
and then
Yeah.
Fabechi is going to be for sure on this roster as well.
Yeah.
And do you keep a Evan Brown?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah.
You
Bro,
know
I
what I'm
forgot about
saying?
him. Yeah.
So then that would be 10. That would
Mhm.
make 10. Fabechi, Jake Andrews, and Evan Brown will be your 3 interiors. So you basically have, a starting 5 to rotate. Now,
Yeah.
do they keep Evan Brown over Andrews and save a spot that way because Evan Brown can play guard
Mm.
and center. Same thing with Fabechi. Fabechi and
Right.
Evan Brown will be that slash, meaning Fabechi
Mm.
can be a center and a guard. same thing. And really, all three of your centers can be play guard as well.
Yeah,
So, like, if something
that's a
happens
great
to Wyatt
question.
Teller or Ed Ingram, you can slide Keelan over to guard and then move a Fabechi or Evan Brown in that
Yeah,
center,
Brown Center. Yeah,
and then go
that's
from
a
there.
fair question. I think it's too tough to call. I think you want to maintain as much flexibility as possible. So I think I'd rather go with the 10 route. I'm not cutting nobody because it's the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, I feel you, so we'll see, but that's a, little light to touch on, and we'll go from there. We'll definitely have more of those conversations as we get closer to training camp and in training camp. Um,
Okay.
but definitely got to talk about the running back room next week. We also have to talk about the defensive line next week, and then we'll cap it off with the linebackers as well next week. And we'll throw in the wide receivers too. And talk about the depth of that, the depth of those position groups because those are important as well. I think linebacker and running back probably top the list right now.
Hmm.
I think running back nobody's really talking about, but definitely we got to talk about it next week. But I want to hear y'all thoughts, man. Y'all go ahead and drop them, on the post on X or Facebook or YouTube, and let us know what y'all thoughts about it, and what y'all want us to talk about going forward. But those are topics we are going to touch and hit on. So y'all reach out and let us know. But again, appreciate y'all for joining in on this good Sunday, rainy, bad weather week that we're expecting. That
Hmm.
is potentially about to flood again during FIFA. Um, so shout out to everybody, man. Y'all stay safe, y'all stay blessed, man, and shout out to my co-host Clayton. This has been another great episode of the H Town Rundown, and we will see y'all when we see y'all, man. Peace.
Peace.